Commitment is the death of all other options. So we've spoken about this before. We've talked about the methods of this, of demanding greatness. And about how, well, basically you've just got to make a commitment. You've just got to decide. You just got to go all in and be like, here I am, and this is what's happening. And once you've made that commitment, that there's no other way out. There's no other option, because, as I said, it's the death of all other options. You've committed. But most people don't actually make commitments. Most people don't actually go all in. Most people don't truly decide what they're going to do. That they're committed to their goal. They kind of dabble. They have a little bit of interest. They just enter it a little bit. That, I'll dip my toe in. I'll just try. It's like all those things. I'll do free trials and all that kind of stuff, and I'll just see how it goes. See if it's for me. No, you need to make a decision about what's going to happen. You need to make a decision and commit and go all fucking in, and then decide that there is no other options. It's like Cortez and the ships. If you don't know that story, I don't know if it's actually true, but the story goes that when Cortez arrived and met the Aztecs, he was like to his men, we are going to burn the boats because there is no other option. We either leave victorious or we die here. And with the option of retreating and fleeing and heading back home, there's doubt, there's fear, there is still something left, and you could run away to it. But if you actually commit, if you actually go all in, then, well, that's when things change. When you leave no doubt, when there is no other option other than success, when there is no other option than getting in, doing the work, and succeeding, well, you find that you get really creative. You find that you find ways out. You find that those excuses disappear because there is no other fucking option. It's always the extreme versions, but I think that they are true. It's like if I told you that you had to make $1 million in the next 12 months, most people would go, that's impossible. Can't be done. Couldn't be. It's not even plausible. Or, you had to get into the best fucking shape. You had to get stage ready in the next 12 weeks or 6 months. Most people go, no, it's impossible. Can't be done. I can't do it within that time frame or whatever it is. You have this concept about it. But now what if I go, I've got a gun to your wife and children's head. And if you don't succeed in this, they're going to die. Suddenly you would figure it the fuck out. You would work day and night, I hope. I'm assuming. I've met some people and I have some questions about their loyalty towards their family, but that we're not talking to them. But you would move heaven and earth. There is nothing that would be off limits. There is nothing that you wouldn't do to figure it the fuck out. And that's the difference. The goal didn't change. The time frame didn't change. Only the consequences of not achieving it changed. And that's why we need all-in commitment. Because when there's still options around it, when there's still doubt, when there is still, other options, plan B, plan C, plan D, well, when you do that, there's doubt, and you can delay it till tomorrow. It's the same concept as a comfortability trap. That if the consequences aren't dire and you aren't all in, fucking committed, no other option, no choice other than to get this shit done, well, then you can fob it off. Then you can give yourself excuses. Then you can give yourself reasons around it. Then you can find ways not to do the work that is fucking required. I see it all the time. And I will openly admit, hand up, that I have been there as well. I have been that guy. And it's like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it Monday. I'll do it when this is done, when this happens. Because, well, there wasn't that much on the line. You know? I wasn't fully committed to it. There were ways out. There were other options. There were scenarios that could go other ways. So I gave myself the out. I kept kicking it down the line. That's why it's a risky move, but it does sometimes, well, if you truly do it, pay off. When, you know, people are starting out businesses and things, so they quit their job and they've got to provide for their family. So the only fucking way to keep putting food on the table, to keep putting a roof over your head, is to fucking succeed at that business. You find people figure it the fuck out. When you're going to lose everything, more often than not, you find that people figure it out. And I say more often than not because, well, sometimes society and reality are fucking sad. And it depresses me how fucking sad some people in this society are. I've had people come to me and they've been told by their doctor that they will be full-blown diabetic in the next 3 months unless they change something. So I map it out. I've done it many times. I know how to do it. We can reverse it through lifestyle choices. We can fix it all. They're like, fantastic. We get to the price and they're like, oh, no. Not willing to invest that into my health and fitness. And I'm like, you literally have an ultimatum. This is no longer a down the track, if you don't fix your health and fitness, shit will get really bad. This is legitimately right here, right fucking now, that if you do not do the work, you will end up with diabetes. And they're like, I think I'll try and do it myself. Well, let's be realistic here. If you're 3 months away from having diabetes, doing it yourself has not been fucking working. At all. It has not been working. And you need to make a different choice. Really quickly. And yet they say no. And yet they opt to do something different. And that truly, truly boggles my mind. Beyond anything else I've ever seen. And that's why I say, like, you have to actually be bought in. And you have to be raise the consequences that it matters to you. Because apparently even getting diabetes for some people is not enough of a consequence to get into shape, to look after your health, to do what is fucking required. That the price or the investment or the sacrifice is too great. But, you know, the cost of being on medication for the rest of your life, the cost of the potential consequences of that. You know, diabetes can cost up to 15 grand a year in medication. But that's an acceptable one, but actually making a life-changing choice, actually doing work to change your life, no, that's too much. That's a stretch too far. And that's why I talk about that you have to figure out, well, what are you doing this for? Above and beyond yourself. Because it can't just be about you. Especially if we're talking, you know, at the beginning of demanding greatness, about getting into shape. Look, don't get me wrong, I like having a fucking six-pack. I like being in great shape. But there are many days, many fucking days, where that isn't even remotely enough of a incentive to continue doing the work. Not even fucking close. Because, well, it's a nicety. I like it, I feel good about myself and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what's going to get me out of bed on the days I feel like shit. It's not going to get me up and get me moving on the days that, the voice in my head is screaming for me to take a day off, to rest, screaming at me to, indulge. I'd love a fucking pizza. Oh my God, would I love a pizza and some wine and, all those kinds of things. I would love it. But I don't do that because this is bigger than me. And I've come up against quite a few people on this one. And we talk about it for your children. This isn't about you. This is about my kids. This is about my wife. This is about being the greatest version of myself. This is about leading by fucking example. It's about showing up as the best version I can possibly be. That's what this is about. Having a six-pack and all that is nice, but it's not the reason. It's not the driving force. It's not why I get the fuck up every morning and push myself as hard as I can. I do that to make sure I continue to be the best version of myself. I can do that to ensure that I keep showing up like that for my family, for my kids, that they see Dad as this version, that they see Dad chasing after his greatness, demanding his greatness every single day. So they grow up thinking, well, that's normal. That's how it should be. That's just what life is. That's what I want my children to think. That when we make a commitment, we follow through. We've already started with those things. And my daughter's 4, my son is 3. We're teaching these things. They do jiu-jitsu every week. And there are some weeks that my children don't want to do it. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to. But if you're not going to commit, we're not going to do this. If you're not all in and you're not listening, we're not partaking in this. And they get it. Well, my daughter much more than my son. But they're showing up. They know that they have to show up. They know that they have to commit. They know that they have to do the work. And even down to things like commitment with effort and working out. They don't understand people who don't work out every single day. They've asked my family and some of the people we know, and they're like, why don't you work out every day like Daddy? They don't understand that what I'm doing isn't the normal. And that's good. I want them to grow up with the perception of how we live our life is the normal. I had this one with a woman the other day, and I was like, they were talking about, bribing them with things. And I was like, why don't you just give them a protein shake? Get a chocolate flavored one. And my kids think it's chocolate milk and they're fucking over the moon for it. They're stoked for it. And she was like, oh yeah, but your kids are brainwashed. And I was like, well, all parenting is brainwashing. They have no other reference point, especially when they're really, really young. All of it's brainwashing. It's just what you choose to brainwash them with. I'm choosing to make sure that they grow up to be the fittest, strongest, healthiest, happiest, most connected, driven people that I can possibly be. I'm trying to make sure all the lessons that I had to learn as a fucking adult, that they don't have to learn them. It's just part of who they are. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to build for them. I'm not trying to build that they have to undo all the shit that they learnt from watching me avoid circumstances, watching me choose sedation over commitment, watching me avoid doing the work that will build the life that we can be proud of. I want them to grow up and have that advantage straight off the bat. I want them to grow up and kick ass and take names and not be meek. Be ready to take on the world and do whatever is required. To have the skills that I've spent my life building just ingrained into them. Because I've never understood this idea of not giving your children everything. I want to give my children absolutely everything, but mostly in terms of skills, mostly in terms of thinking and habits and how they view the world. That their start in life is the best possible start because, well, they learnt it from the beginning. That they didn't have to get to a point and, go to courses and read the books and reframe and break old habits and all the kind of shit that I've had to go through, that you're having to go through. That's the whole point of demanding greatness, is that we're building those things so that you can learn those skills. But I think the underlying principle is that you learn those skills now, that you develop them and you create them so that your children never, ever have to. They don't have to pick a point in their life when they're an adult and go, well, enough is enough. Now is the time to be the best version of myself. No, they've just started on that, and they can build from that. So they can build it up higher and become better and develop into the greatest version of themselves early, and then build on that and build on that. You know, if we get it and take it to the 10th floor, and they start at the fucking 10th floor, imagine how far they can take it. That's the point. That's why we need to commit. That's why we need to decide and commit all in to the death of all other options, that there is nothing else left but you doing the work that is required, that you said you would when you were motivated, when you were feeling good. You do that work regardless of any other outcome. That, my friend, is where we need to get to. So if you are ready to actually commit, if you are ready to go all in and make a decision that you're going to be that guy, that you're going to lead by example for your children, for your wife, for those who love and adore you, for those who believe in you, and those that you serve. Click the link in my bio. Let's get you into demanding greatness, and let's see who you can become on the other side of that. Cannot wait to see you there.